Hi everyone, Nella here back for yet another birthday character update. Yes, it is my birthday. um, anyway, so this actually has to do with Betsy Dahl, my soul doll Lily C's mom. And it's a bit interesting, at least I think, that I'd never really given much thought to Lily's mom, to Mrs. Dahl, until Anne made the video about Miss Emily's School for Excellence and its alumni association. And once she made that video, suddenly I had an idea for Mrs. Dahl's past. As I mentioned, I made a few videos talking about the Alumni Association. And yeah, so Betsy Dahl, before she took the last name Dahl, graduated from Miss Emily's School for Excellence, which is a prep school based in New England. And the thing with that was that it started flowing that, okay, she'd been there, and for whatever reason she was, at least when she still remembered her powers, she was kind of glad that, she was kind of glad to be rid of them, even though at the present moment she doesn't remember, of course, that she had the powers, but unlike Jazz, one of the other characters from Miss Emily's School for Excellence, or one of the other alumni, unlike Jazz, she actually has, continued to live even without her powers. And then, of course, that she went to school with Bebop, which is one of the other characters I've come up with for Miss Emily's School for Excellence. Anyway, so it all started to sort of come together, but I didn't know what power she had. What power she'd had and then lost. And what happened was that I was playing around with some doll creators, as I do, and I was listening to Marina and the Diamonds, her album Electro Heart. I'll put a link to the songs, or to the playlist rather, in the description. And as I was listening to this and I was playing around with the doll creators, suddenly it came to me. And what came to me was how Mrs. Dahl looked as a child, an idea for her powers. And what specifically was actually interesting, I believe it was, which one was it? It was one of the Marina and the Diamond songs. I believe that it was the acoustic version of Lies and Homewrecker, that suddenly it just hit me. When I was in junior high, I created a whole bunch of beginnings to stories. I often would come up with a character and then, kind of like a few lines of introduction, and sort of a general world, but not have an idea of plot or anything like that. And a lot of those stories developed into the Curiosity Shop, or folded into the Curiosity Shop. But one of them that started but only stayed a small seed of an idea was Silver and Gold. Now, Silver and Gold were two sisters, and the idea that I think I was going with at the idea was that they were twins, and that one of them had died either very young or during childbirth or just before being born. But the spirit, the ghost of the deceased twin, continued to live and actually kind of followed her sister around. Silver was the ghost, and Gold was the one who was alive. And that Silver kind of acted like an imaginary friend of sorts. but Gold knew that, it was the ghost of her dead twin. And one of the things was that Silver and Gold loved telling stories, but the stories they told were always kind of twisted and exposed the lies that people around them were telling. Because being a ghost, Silver could spy on people, and then she would tell Gold, and Gold would kind of weave the story. And before anyone knew it, they'd be done their story, and someone's deep dark secret had been exposed, or some sort of wrongdoing had been exposed, and that sort of thing. And like I said, it didn't really develop much, but the one bit that I really, really do remember from it was it was very episodic. It always started off the same way. It was a very clear image in my head. It was of Gold opening up a book, kind of like reading a, like gather around, it's story time sort of thing, and everyone sits in a circle around Gold as she starts to read. And I don't think I had paper, but I think it actually did say, like, come gather round, was how it starts. And then everyone sits down, and Gold opens up her book, and Silver is sitting down next to her. Not that anyone else could see her other than Gold. And in unison, Silver and Gold would say, Silver and Gold, this tale will be told, or lies have been told. There's always Silver and Gold, something told. And it usually involved, like a tale or lies, depending on what the situation was. And the funny thing is, I was listening to, I'm quite sure it was the Marina and the Diamonds song, Lies, the acoustic version, that, that I remembered that line, Silver and Gold, lies have been told. And as I was playing with the doll maker, I suddenly realized that I had made Gold, but I had made Betsy Dahl. I had made Lily's mum when she was a child. And that's because Lily's mum is Gold. And the reason she's called Gold is, or in reference to the story is called Gold, is not just because, Silver is her sister and Silver is a ghost, so, Silver. She was also called Gold, or nicknamed Gold, because she had blonde hair and hazel eyes, but the thing with her eyes is that in certain lights, especially if she was telling a story with the ghost of her dead sister next to her, that her eyes looked almost golden. It was kind of like one of the signs of her using her power, really. And the moment I had that, I went, well, that it makes perfect sense then why she wouldn't necessarily want to keep her power. Her power is to see the ghost of her dead twin sister, who sometimes, not always, but sometimes can be a bit mean-spirited. Silver is not at all happy that she died and didn't get a chance to live. And sometimes she kind of would take that out on Gold by telling her particularly nasty lies, and exposing particularly nasty events that had happened. And also, keep in mind that one of the things that I know that Mrs. Dahl does when she's older is she hates drama, and she really wants to keep everything perfect, even if she knows that things aren't really perfect. For instance, with her daughter, she knows that that's not a perfect situation, but she tries to make it seem perfect, and to anyone looking in from the outside, it is perfect. And she's this wonderful mother, and she's so selfless, taking after her mute daughter after the death of her husband, yada 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 yada. And even as a child, Betsy, Mrs. Dahl, Gold, that was still the same thing. She wanted everything to be perfect, and if things weren't perfect, then she didn't want anyone to know that they weren't perfect. So I think when she first goes to Miss Emily, she doesn't know that she's there to lose her power. But when she learns that, she wants to stay there. She wants to stay and get rid of it, and get rid of Silver, and hearing Silver, and being able to see all the untruths that people are spreading. She doesn't want to see it. She doesn't want to hear it. She doesn't want to know of it, because if she doesn't know of it, and if she doesn't hear it, and she doesn't see it, then it isn't happening now, is it? So, yes. And I actually made, after I did the doll maker version of Bebop and Betsy, aka Gold, I also did a Sims 4 Create a Sim version of them as young women. Of course, after Betsy has left Miss Emily's, and much later after Bebop has escaped from Miss Emily's, and I kind of just made the two of them, and it wasn't until I was doing the facial shape that I realized that one of the things is that Betsy, even as an adult, never quite looks super well. I mean, of course she looks perfect to everyone, but if you actually really look carefully, there's something that's just a bit off. Makes you go, I don't think that she is the perfect image of health. I think there's, something a bit wrong with her. And what that thing is that just because Gold can no longer see or interact with Silver doesn't mean that Silver still isn't there. And because Silver can no longer communicate with her sister, Gold actually looks a bit unwell. And I'm not sure if it's because Silver's making her a bit unwell, or if it's just a consequence of her not having her power anymore. But for whatever reason, Gold, Betsy, after she loses her power, her cheeks are a little bit more hollow. Her face looks a little bit more pinched. She doesn't look as sweet as she did as a child. So, that's that. If you're wondering what Benji is holding, which I think you might have seen glimpses of, this is actually a chest, small little box that I got at an antique store years and years ago, that I use for holding small parts like extra hands and that sort of thing. But, as I was looking at it, I often have Lily sitting by this, and I was wondering why. And that's because it belongs to her mother. So it is gold. And the interesting thing is, there's actually a few spots, I don't think my camera will show it up, but there's actually a few spots where you can see that the gold paint has come off, and underneath the gold paint, it looks just a little bit silver. So this video's gone very long. I'll put at the end of the video, of course, the pictures that I did up of Bebop and Betsy, and of Bebop and Betsy together. And once again, in the description will be the songs that sort of inspired this line of thinking. So yeah, that's it. I'm going to get ready because I have to work on my birthday yet again. Oh well, it happens. Bye everyone. Let me know what you think of Silver and Gold. And remember, Silver is listening and watching you. Bye.